Thank you very much, Jeff. Okay. I love these little title slides. I'm Zanola Campbell, in case you don't know. As Jeff mentioned, in regards to what we're looking for from the passenger standpoint, and all of this is really synced on what the experience that we're trying to create for our passengers, as well as how we can provide economic opportunity for our concessionaires. From a local and regional brand concept standpoint, our travelers has told us that, you know what, you're in Dallas. We want some of those concepts that are unique to Dallas. So we are looking for regional, we are looking for local brands that are going to meet our passengers' expectations. And on a national standpoint, and I can't stress enough, 60% of our traffic is connecting through DFW. They're coming from all over the country into our hub airport. So their expectation in regards to having taste that they understand, that they know, is still very critical to our program. Someone asked, well, gee, do you have national brands now or regional brands now? Yes, we do. Probably about 60% of our brands today are either regional or national when it comes on the food side. On the specialty retail side, a little bit different, but our passengers have changed over the years. They want high quality items, they want consumer electronics, they want anything that's going to make their experience better and more convenient. And those are the types of things that we're going to be looking for. Additionally, a lot of things have changed in regards to how they use the airport. Concepts that we never thought of before, from spas to sleeping pods. I mean, things of that nature, because we do have, what do we call it? Ring, ring, the flight's going to be delayed. Can you stay open? Those are the kinds of conversations we have with our existing concessionaires today. That flight gets delayed, those passengers have no place to go. I always say, yay! In the other retail standpoint, you know, if I was in a strip center, I would like, oh my God, I'm not going to make my numbers. But being in a confined area and knowing that those travelers are going to be looking for goods and services and food and all the other elements to try to make their travel experience a little bit easier, we do request that our concessionaires stay open, and it does provide for an opportunity for them to shop and eat. So think of those types of things as you're trying to work through your proposal process. These are all kind of hints. Now, we started out back in April. We had our first meeting. We talked about the overview of the terminal renovation improvement program. I have to get this in my mind. I've been calling it TDP for so long, and I can just say TRIP, the TRIP program. And we'll share a little bit of that overview today. We have David Nichols here today who's going to share some of the construction and all the infrastructure insights as it relates to what we're looking to do with the existing terminals. We talked about how to do business at the airport, that it's not the same. It has some great benefits, and it also has some consequences, things that we wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of. We also talked about the concessions ACDBE program, and we're going to highlight that again today. So for those of you that are looking to be certified or to be in joint ventures, we have Mr. Donald Bannon here, and it's very important that you ask those questions now and that you make sure that you are in step for your certification if you don't have it. And then on May 25th, we actually spent a lot of time talking about finances and the types of financial obligation you would have. We brought in some lenders. We had the Small Business Administration here. We had others here. We talked about surety bonds and some of those expectations. And we also spent a lot of time with folks from the NCRTA, I think that is, but he'll correct me if I'm wrong. And again, talking about certification because it is so critical for those of you that are seeking certification, how to go about that. Then in June, we spent more time talking about the request for proposal process. We'll highlight that again today because that's going to be very key in regards to what we're looking for, how to fill it out. If we ask for certain questions, you need to give us certain answers. If those things are not included, even though you may have a great concept, it won't even get to the review pile because it didn't have all the critical elements. So you really need to make sure that when that RFP comes out, that you read it thoroughly over and over again and you understand exactly what's being requested so that you can provide the answers, so at least you'll be able to be reviewed. We spent a lot of time talking about, okay, I got the deal, now what? You know, getting ready for the construction process, what's expected there, given the fact that we're doing this in phases, is a blessing, as well it may have some constraints for others because we're letting out the entire terminal. So the first section that goes down that we'll be renovating is going to be from like gates A through 17. But if you win a location that is at the other end of the terminal that we will not be getting to in terms of construction until the second year, you need to know about how's your financial health. Are you going to be able to withstand? So think through that as well in regards to making sure that you have all those different pieces in the back of your mind to ensure that when it's time for you to start building, that you understand what your obligations are. We've got a great website. Everything that we've been talking about and more is at www.dfwairport.com/TDP. It'll probably change now to TRIP, /concessions. But right now, any presentation, any research about the terminals, about our passengers, it's on there. And if you can't find it, call us. We also have on there a place for concessionaires that are interested in doing business at DFW. Again, if you have not registered, I encourage you to do so. We are creating mailing lists. And because we're going to be doing a request for proposal probably every year for the next 6 years, you want to be on that list. In case you're not selected, your concept is not selected this time, we've got 4 other terminals that will be coming up. So it's real important that your information is updated. And this is a really great slide because it just kind of talks about what's the difference between doing business at the airport and what happens on the street side. You know, on a traditional strip center, if you happen to be in one or a freestanding location, you know, you've got the build-out costs, you got a rent, you got employee costs, you got insurance. That's pretty standard. But in the operating environment of the airport, your build-out costs are going to be a little bit higher, 20 to 40%. We're working on ways, though, on how we can minimize those, because if we can work through the TRIP program simultaneously, we won't have some of the constraints as relates to time. Typically, if the airport is still in operation, your construction crew would not be able to operate until after hours. But because we're going to be working simultaneously, we're hoping to shave some of those costs down so that your construction crews will have the opportunity to work at, during the daylight, around the clock if they have to. So we'll be working through that process. But you've got TSA security requirements. All of your employees have to be badged. Employees that you may feel comfortable with on the street side hiring because they may have a blemish or two, they got in trouble a little bit while they were younger, et cetera, you may not be able to hire those folks at the airport, as well as the time that's involved. TSA may be able to clear an employee for hire in a couple of days, or it could be 6 weeks. So being able to make sure that you've got a good employee pool to draw from, because you will have some shakeout. Those are real important pieces that you need to understand. Operating and maintenance costs, a little bit different. Got to make sure that you understand what those costs are. They will be spelled out in the request for proposal. So when you're putting together your P&L, you clearly understand what your bottom line could look like. Banking, and this is my favorite one because sometimes I'm in a terminal and I see interesting things in terms of how people are moving money around. We are looking in our request for proposal for a banking product that we think will be utilized by our concessionaires. and hopefully can alleviate some of the redundancy in armored car costs and things of that nature. So that too will be a part of the request for proposal, and hopefully will help with some of that, some of those issues.